Looking to replace your OEM diesel particulate filter or diesel oxidation catalyst? Look no further than DPF XFit, a complete line of aftermarket diesel particulate filters and diesel oxidation catalysts designed as an exact fit OEM replacement with all makes coverage for light, medium, and heavy-duty trucks. With thousands of units in stock, we ship the same or next day, and be sure to check out our comprehensive reverse OEM lookup tool. Always new, never remanufactured. For more information, be sure to visit dpfxfit.com. That's dpfxfit.com.
For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO Radio is back, and it is the start of our Parade of Champions, the 2025 Parade of NHRA Champions, Mission Foods Champions, Lucas Oil Series Champions. We're going to try to connect with as many as is possible over the next weeks, months, leading into the Gator Nationals, right? That's the final deadline when we can speak with our final champion. And then we begin the campaign for the 2026 Mission Food Series Championship in the 75th season of the NHRA. How about that? Any big news stories happening lately? I think there are. We're going to talk about it. The Procs leave, John Force Racing, all the storylines, Cornwell staying, Force puts out a statement, there's going to be 4 cars over there, who are they going to be, what's going to happen, who's going to drive that car, all that interesting stuff. We're going to get into it all. But our premier guest, the guy that we're having the show in his honor today, is Richard Gadson, a fan favorite, a personal favorite, a nice guy, a champion. He got the job done. He's got a very unique story and career arc. We're going to talk with him about his championship season, his first championship, probably not his last. We'll see what happens if past his prologue at Vance and Hines. So if you want to, hear from and learn about a really good guy, fan favorite, a guy who is like just now emerging as a star in the NHRA, he's going to do the best job he's done as champion, I think. Please share the show for Richard Gadson. And before we get to Richard, and before we get to the Proc Talk, which will happen at the end of the show, I do want to shout out and say thanks to the people who make it possible for me to go WFO, like Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. We're going to be at PRI with Total Seal. We're going to do a lot of interviews in the booth. It's going to be great. Come on by. You already heard a little bit about FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. We appreciate those guys just so much. Redline Synthetic Oil. We'll talk about them a little bit later on. Hussey Copper, HusseyPerformance.net. These guys do a great job, but they're not just copper head gaskets anymore. Big thanks to the folks at Hussey and Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School and Bernie Speed Shop. I've got a big interview with Josh Hart on Monday, part of the E-Part Trade Industry Week. We're going to be talking a lot about Bernie's 100,000 square feet out there in Ocala, Florida. Folks at Foggett, if you don't have a can of Foggett in your race trailer, you're making a grave mistake. We'll talk a little bit more about Marvin Rodak and everybody else who helps us out on WFO Radio a little bit later, but now it is champion time, and he is, on his way back to work, right, at Vance and Hines. Joining us now, your 2025 Mission Foods Pro Stock Motorcycle World Champion, Richard Gadson. What's up, Richard? How are you?
What's up, Joe? Thanks for having me, man. Yep, on my way back to the gig, man. Just had lunch. So we go to the lunch from noon to 1. I dropped my kid off and on the way back to work.
You earned this one. This is a world champion interview. Everybody says it hasn't sunk in yet. It hasn't sunk in yet. I know it probably hasn't, but you're a couple of weeks into this deal. How's it feel?
I would still say it hasn't sunk in yet. Eddie told me when he thinks it'll set in. And I personally think it'll set in when the number 1 goes on the side of the wheelie bar panels. We're all, I'm sure, still dealing with so many emotions from how the weekend was. And then, you got social media, you got the comment section all under everything. And, I'm still sorting everything out, but, man, I'm happy. I fought really, really, really hard this year. We fought really hard this year. and I think we did it in a tough fashion. So I'm definitely not going to let them steal my joy. I'm excited, but it hasn't quite sunk in just yet.
It was a bizarre, truncated end to the season. And I know that's gamed out by everyone. You are aware of the social. I've seen you for years, couple of years. Like, you're not afraid to battle it out on social media, which I admire. And also, it's also like pointless, right? Like, you're not going to stop them.
Yeah.
But the way it ended, I think, and I've said, NHRA did everything they possibly could. It was a pro organization decision. They were certainly 50% of it. But when I think of every team that had a really big say in it, Vance and Hines, 2 riders, a championship on the line within 1 round, we were all thinking about it. How did Vance and Hines factor in, and how did you guys process that decision?
The boys went up in the pro meeting, and I don't think we really, I think we were willing to stay there until forever, until they saw the racetrack. When they went up there, when when they started drying the track, we walked up on the other side of the guard wall and we were looking at it. And I think we all, without saying a word, looked at each other and said, there ain't no way in hell we are going down this racetrack anytime. Not today, not Monday, maybe not even Tuesday. And I think that was our sentiment. So while the boys looking at the track right there, they were talking to some of the funny car teams, I took it upon myself to jump on the golf cart and ride down to the end of the racetrack. And then
oh, we lost him. We'll get him back. We'll get him back. That's the thing. And let's see what everyone's got to say while we try to get Richard back. We're working on him. Congratulations, champ. Manufacturers Cup Drag Racing says, congratulations, champ. Henry says, happy Thanksgiving, Joe and everyone. Yeah, this is the Thanksgiving show. This is the Thanksgiving show. The guys from Life's a Drag are going to do a Friendsgiving, something like that, tomorrow at noon. I'm going to pop on, but you're going to hear a lot of your favorite racers on there. Carl Claymore says, congratulations to Richard as we try to get him back. Let's see. Congratulations to you and your team, Richard, 2025 champion. There, I see him back now. He's back, baby. You're back, baby.
Yeah, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, but I guess somebody must have called back to back and it disturbed the call. Sorry about that.
You're on WFO right now, man. I got to see you on WFO.
I know. Sorry about that, guys. What was the last thing you heard me say before it went out?
You're going to the golf cart. You're going to the top end. You go check it out.
So I went to the top end because I remember seeing a video of Matty Gordon the evening before rafting on the return road. So I kept saying, okay, cool. So if we race today, that means we're going to have to push our motorcycle to the scales, the whole deal. So I wanted to see what that path looked like because I know what the pits looked like. And I'm like, we're going to literally be running through standing water. And then that's when I was really like, dude, I told Andrew and Eddie, I was like, go down here. So anyway, shortly after that was the pro meeting. And I don't know exactly what transpired in there. But they came back and they just told us, they said, hey, we're definitely not racing today. The rest is to be determined. And I found out the rest when Glenn Cromwell came to the trailer and told me that I was a champion. Maybe the boys knew that already, but you know, my thing is that as far as the social media, no, I'm not afraid to battle it out on there. You know, you gotta, it's a fine line between completely wasting your time and having an informative post where somebody can actually take what you're saying and understand it. I know in NHRA has kind of been in the past, you know, most people take the silent route. They think that silence is being professional, but you know, I think it's 2025 and social media rules the world, whether you like it or not, whether you accept it or not. So sometimes you got to be able to speak. You got to go and talk a little bit or else people don't know what they don't understand. I'm not terribly mad at some of the fans because they don't know what they don't know. You know, like it's our job to tell them what the situation is. So, you know, it's a fine line. I think Glenn did a great job with his press release that he put out there, or his statement, I'll say, that he put out there. I just think people don't read it. I think people just don't read. I think that some of the drivers and teams and people who are affected by this, if we all picked up our phones like Matt Hagan did on the strap situation, he made a video the next day explaining better his position on it. I think as drivers and as people, we should talk to people, and I think it would help them understand a little bit better. But That's not my job or department, but that's why you'll see me kind of get in the comments a little bit.
No, I admire it. At the same time, there's so many of them out there. I think you explained it pretty well. I do appreciate it. Hey, I love the fact that Glenn came and told you face to face. That's excellent. And in the end, you gave that big speech in front of the entire NHRA community. That had to be a little, I don't know. Will you tell me? Was it taxing? Was it a daunting experience? You handled it very well. You gave your story. Like, you told us about your life. We learned about you. That's up on social for everybody to watch. But how was that experience looking out at your peers as champion?
Man, it was I had something written down that was slightly different. And I went up there and I kind of made the decision at that moment. I said, man, I can't come this far and not talk about it. It's, I put myself out there in a vulnerable way that if I had a little bit more time to think about it, I probably wouldn't have, not because it's not the right thing to do, but just because it is very taxing and very, it's out there. But my thought process right now is, and even the story that came out this week on Comp Plus, is that, one day my kid will grow up and she'll watch that and read that. And, and I want her to be able to do that. It's not for everybody I'm talking to, whoever it is for. So, because when you stand up there on that stage, I promise you, and you look out and you see nothing but, you see a crowd. That's harder than a final round against NHRA, I promise. It was a lot, man, but we got through it, and I'm happy I did it at this point.
Yeah, well, it was great. It went over great. We got to see your heart and soul in that story on Comp Plus. Really great about how you got here, and some, personal family tragedy. You lost your dad at 6 years old. I want people to go read the story, because Bobby Bennett did a good job of telling that story. But I knew Ricky was important. I knew that, but I didn't fully understand how important he was to changing the direction of where you were, and how he helped totally expose you to drag racing. I also found it a little funny, Richard. It's like, oh my gosh, we're in financial hard times. Let's go racing. And it worked.
Yeah, well, he wasn't really in financial hard times. He's done well for himself. He went, he was always factory sponsored with Kawasaki, so he was able to carry a good bit of the racing load for me. My mom, it was the at-home life. I lived with my mom. She never remarried or never, I would say she never fully rebounded from my father's passing. So it was the at-home part that was hard. The at the racetrack part, I was riding on my uncle's coattail and just trying to learn everything that I could. He was with Rob Muzzy for a while and Team Kawasaki, and you had Ryan Schnitz over there. You had Chip Ellis over there. And I got the luxury of being able to learn and watch all of those guys in the prime of their careers drag race. And I don't think they knew that I was the sponge that I was. But yeah, my uncle was a big part of the story, man. He really just kept me with him. I think that was his way of kind of keeping me out of trouble in some fashions. I was never a bad kid, but sometimes trouble finds you. And he just kept me at the racetrack. I always make the joke that my attendance wasn't good at school, but I was so smart and so good in school that I could afford the attendance because I would always do my work, et cetera, and I was always a good student. But yeah, definitely a different way of coming to be a pro stock motorcycle champion. But if my story was something completely different, something less embarrassing, I'd tell it, right? So this is the same situation. It's my diligence to tell it. So that's pretty much what I'm doing.
No, well, I like it. I think it's inspiring. It's what it is. It's inspiring. There are people out there, we don't know what they went through, what they're going through, what they will go through. They can draw inspiration from that and be like, look, this kid, he found something he loved. He stayed with it. He did what they told him, get good grades, right? A's and B's. You tell the story. And again, I want everyone to go read the story. I got some other stuff I'm going to ask you about, but you got a C in art class and you didn't get to go?
Yeah, I was a straight A student, man. I was a really, really, really good. And my mom's reasoning for, I was like, come on, mom, it's art. And she says, that's more the reason why you shouldn't have a C. Like, why why would you even do that? That just means you're being lazy, goofing off, or whatever the case may be. So I think the punishment was a little double because it was such a stupid class. If I was actually struggling with math or English or whatever, it'd be different. It'd be like, okay, he's having a hard time. But she sorted that out as I was being lazy. So, yep, that's what it was.
She's not wrong. She's not
Yep.
wrong. You should have been able to figure out art, draw a couple of motorcycles, man. They'll love it. They'll think it's great.
Yeah.
Very similar to the Daryl Gwynn story. Daryl Gwynn, I don't know if you know this story. It's part of Daryl's foundational deal. He missed one Gator Nationals because he got bad grades, and his dad Jerry said nah, and he stayed home, and that was the last time he ever got bad grades. The motivational factor of drag racing, like you can't do this if
Yep.
you don't do well.
Yep. I got to check that out. I gotta find that one somewhere after we get off because I love to read a good story.
Well, no, we'll just put you together with Daryl the next time, and he can tell you in person because there's that connection. All right. So Ricky told me to ask you about your grandfather because this is what's really interesting to me. I'm going to tell you what he told me. And this was brief. It was in Richmond. It was in a restaurant. He pulled me aside. And this is before you're like making your move, right? You went 4 wins, 6 final rounds, first win in Bristol, but like right when you're starting to emerge now. And he's like, Joe, you got to know this. Richard's, and maybe I get some of it wrong. I want you to do your best to tell me. Richard's grandfather was a known personality in the Philadelphia, like we'll call it motorcycle club community. And that, and your grandmother too, like that when you say you're from a motorcycling family, this is not like one generation. This is multiple generations. So what can you tell us about your grandfather? I know he passed. I heard Ricky told me that the whole community, like people that don't get along, stopped. There were like days of peace declared in memory of your grandfather. I think that's a really interesting story. What can you share?
Yeah, so my grandfather, his name was Richard Gadson as well. His nickname was Suicide, and he was a very prominent and well-known rider in the 1970s. He died in 1979, around the corner from the house. Actually, my uncle Rick was one of the first people on the scene. But anyway, in a motorcycle accident. But he was I don't know how he got to be as big as he was, obviously, because it was before me, but he was really good. He was a street racer. He was just the man for whatever reason. He was just a big figure. And the State Burners Club, which is a staple in Southwest Philadelphia, was who he belonged to. And, he's who started my uncle and my father in riding motorcycles. And, yeah, when his funeral, I've seen the pictures. It was in the newspaper. It was in the Philadelphia Inquirer newspaper. He was on the front page when his funeral came. That's the biggest news in the city at that time. And everybody was there. I remember seeing pictures of it. There was thousands and thousands of bikers in Southwest Philly. I'm sorry, in South Philly, hundreds or thousands. I don't know the number of bikers, and they all came out to celebrate his life. And yeah, that's who my grandfather was, Richard Gadson, aka Suicide. That's my uncle Ricky Gadson's father.
And his grandson, right, is NHRA Pro Stock Motorcycle World Champion. Like that lineage, to me, like that's what this sport is. That's what it's all about. Like he was a biker or a street racer on the street doing it as like, maybe it would have been, he would have loved to have been on the racetrack, right? But that wasn't available. And you did it on the racetrack on Fox television, celebrated by Mission Foods. Like there's something to that.
Yeah, my uncle actually started the racetrack part back in the 80s, I believe. Him and my father were going up and down the East Coast street racing, Daytona Beach, everywhere in the Carolinas, street racing. And then one day he Atco Raceway, he took my grandmother's leathers. She had like a Catwoman suit, a leather suit that said Catwoman on it. And he put her leathers on and went over to Atco Raceway and learned that he can get a time slip that tells him whether he's riding good or bad. And that's what started the fire at the racetrack. And he ended up going on to be a 15-time national champion in the no bar ranks of things. And then, that lineage trickles down to me as a 2025 NHRA Pro Stock Motorcycle World Champion. It's crazy. I don't think that I think that I'm so used to that being a story that I don't, until I have conversations like this, I don't really remember that's how it kind of came down and that's how it happened. It's just racing has always been a part of my life from the time I was born at the racetrack. But yeah, that's where the Gadson family in this sport started, and hopefully I can carry that torch, or maybe even pass it on. I don't know. My kid might love racing some fashion. I'm not sure that I want her to, but maybe she will.
Or she won't, right? And
Yeah.
like you can't control it. You can't force
Nope,
it.
you can't control it.
That portion of your speech, which hopefully everybody has seen or will see after this, worthwhile to go see it. And you're so focused on your next generation, being a good dad, but all that discussion about, throwing, your clothes in a bag and just racing motorcycles to survive. That sounds so interesting, like running people's bikes. Let me run your bike and I'll win. And you did. That's taking a lot of pressure on yourself. But I think that pressure, those moments probably readied you for big races against Gage Herrera. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was stupid is what it was, man. It was definitely not responsible. I was young. I didn't know what I was doing, man. I was just trying to figure it out. And yeah, that's, there was some times where, I'd move and work at a bike shop. I think some of the places in my speech, Cecil Towner, HTP Performance, I slept on his couch while I worked at his bike shop. And Jerry Cooper, same thing. And there were some times where I might stay put for a year or two. And that was what I called stability. But in between all of those, I was just basically, just literally, like I said, I just had clothes and I would just ride, to wherever the next one was, or I'd end up somewhere working on a motorcycle to build for a little while for the next race. But I think that pressure, when people talk about the pressure of racing NHRA, I'm always like, this ain't pressure. It's pressure. Don't get me wrong. That's not true. It's pressure, but the type of pressure that I'm used to, I'm like, if I just remembered, I'm just here having fun. I'm just here having fun. I get to do this for a living now. This is fun. This isn't really pressure. That is kind of what prepares you for a final round against Gage Herrera. And then you just tell yourself, man, like, I've been doing this my whole life. I've been in grudge races with higher stakes than this. I've had to race sometimes. I always say racing like the rent is due. That's my little term. But a lot of times that was true. I'm like, I got to win this race. I have to. I can't lose. And I think that mentality is something that was at one point in my career was something that fueled me, like in those moments. Now I think it's just part of how I race. And when last year, I think I was last year I red lit one time. I red lit in Chicago, and Eddie was like, "Why are you pushing the tree so hard?" I'm like, "That's all I know how to do. I've never ever raced any other way. Like, telling me not to do that would be a hard adjustment for me. I don't know how to not go after it. Like, I've never raced from a performance advantage standpoint where I had 3-4 numbers in the bank and all I got to do is make an easy run down the racetrack and I'm winner. I've never had that luxury. So it's just how I'm wired, man. I think those days and that pressure is just kind of wired me a certain way, and it definitely trickles over to how I race right now.
I love hearing that. I want to talk about Eddie. I want to talk about Andrew and your Vance and Hines experience. We got a lot of people out there. Dugenet, fellow Philly guy, is out there saying good stuff, and everyone's reposting the stream. Jason Logan reposting the stream. Thank you guys for growing the audience out there. I appreciate it. One of those moments, the rent is due moment. Like, I'm sure there were a whole bunch of moments, but is there one moment, like grudge racing moment, where you were really under the pressure to win against somebody with something, a bike, whatever, no bar? I don't want it necessarily to be in a back alley, dark.
Yeah, no. It wasn't like that.
You get what I mean, right? Like,
yeah,
a moment that stands out in your mind that, like, you rose to the occasion prior to this time.
Man, there's 20 of them. Everybody I have a story. Everybody I've rode for will have some sort of story like that. There's quite a few that pop up, that pop in mind. I had a grudge race with a guy named Chris Moore, actually, Moore Mafia. He came out to Pomona and raced his Turbo GSXR in front of the NHRA fans as well. But Chris had at that time, the fastest motorcycle in the world. And we had a big $50,000 grudge race that we were supposed to do. And that moment right there was one of my most high pressure. That the bike that I was riding against him at the time when the race came about wasn't fast enough to beat him. It wasn't. And that bike became like my job for about 30 days. I had about a month to figure out how to make it. And picture this, Joe. I had to go 3 seconds, sub 4 second run in the 8th mile on a street tire, no wheelie bar bike at almost 200 mile an hour in the 8th mile. So our pro stack bikes, the world record is 420 something. I had to go 3 tenths faster than that with no wheelie bars to win this race. And it was a high pressure situation. And because I had just started my towing company, and because I devoted all of my time and energy to figuring out how to make this bike run. We went to Orlando Speed World and tested. I went to Virginia Motorsports Park, broke it, had to fix it again and go back testing again, redesign the clutch, do so much stuff. It was like crunch time. And that was one of the moments that was like, you know what, dude, like, you got to win this, because now you got to take care of some stuff at home that you haven't taken care of for the last 30 or 45 days. And you don't have a choice. You can't lose this one. So I would say that's probably the biggest one. On the grudge racing side of things, Battle Royale and Pro Street in 2019, when I set the record that Gage just broke this year, 2019 final round of the Pro Street Battle Royale against Jeremy Teasley, Team DME. We went 640 with a 3 at 221 mile an hour. That was the fastest nitrous bike in the world all the way until 2 or 3 months ago, when Gage went 639 and broke it. So those are probably, say, my two biggest ones.
That's wild. So the Chris Moore one, we did see him a couple of years ago come out to Pomona, and it's great that you can put a face on it, right? Like, I know the guy, and you went out there and you won the race and 50 grand. Like, that's a big deal. And that's why you have the character that you have now. So let's talk about some of the races. All right. You broke out. This was a breakout year, 4 wins, 6 finals. The one that stands out for me, though, the one that like defines you to me, is the one you lost. You're perfect. You're perfect in Vegas. You're perfect. Gage is 005. And that's the team. That's why you won, is because you had to race against that. You had to rise to that occasion. And I think that run showed it. Talk a little bit about how you figured it out this year and end up on that run, because that run, to me, like, I walked away just shaking my head. Like, these guys, this is incredible what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I was shaking my head too. And those are, when you get to the top end of the racetrack and you get your time slip, however, whatever disappointment you felt when you went through the shutdown and your light wasn't on, when you turn off the end of the racetrack and you get that time slip, it all goes away. You can't be mad anymore. Like, it's like, you know, you got two people who were willing to let it. I told Andrew, I says, do you realize we both went up there willing to red light? We didn't cut those lights by mistake, though. We weren't like guessing and you just let it fly and it worked out for you, kind of a thing. We were both being aggressive, and we were willing to lay it all on the line right then and there. I knew that if I won that round, I was in a really comfortable spot going into Pomona, and he knew that if he lost that round, that it was pretty much a wrap. So it was a must-win round in both of our eyes. And you know, what more can you do than be perfect, right? And we made a good run. The bike went straight. That weekend, his bike was a little faster than mine. You know, but we knew that going into Pomona that we would be more in Eddie's comfort zone on conditions for tuning. Vegas is something that if we could have had 2 more runs, I think he could have figured it out. But he just kind of couldn't find his way there, and he apologized to me for that. But you know, that moment right there, man, just let me know. I couldn't wait till Pomona. I was like, I don't know what's coming up ahead. And I always make the thing, you know, we all hoped that we went to the finals together and it was a winner take all deal, but it didn't have to be that way. You know, we both had 2 sides of the ladder that we had to run through. And I think it would have been a hell of a day of racing, because people are also jockeying for position underneath us. People want to be in the top 5, and John Hall, Angie, and Braden Davis had a hell of a little trio going on right there, bunched up in the underneath us. And Angie she's been fast lately. She was on Gage's side. Braden was on my side, and I was just looking at the ladder like, if this happens, this is going to be crazy. But you know, me and Gage we're both grudge racers, man. And Andrew and Eddie, it's more competitive in our tent than you might think. You know, a lot of the things we say in the interviews about how bad we want to beat each other, that's all true. We are really at war against each other, and people probably think we were talking about it. And the only times we talked about it is when you guys put cameras on our faces. It was dead silence. We acted like I think it was uncomfortable for us to talk about because, you know, racing for a championship against your teammate is probably one of the most complicated scenarios you can be in because you want what's best for your teammate always, but not really, right? Like, I mean, in the finals in Vegas, I was rooting for Angie. I wanted Angie to beat him. I wish we could have got the Wally and the money, and she got the win light. You know what I mean? So it's just it's an interesting dynamic, you know. And then after the dust settles, I think after Vegas, I pulled Gage to the side when we were in the winner's circle, and I said, "Hey, I said, look, man, the water's muddy. Like, we both want this. I'm racing for it with everything I got. You know, people. You know, he has a group of supporters. I have a group of supporters, and those two groups fight each other really bad on Facebook and outside of the racetrack. You guys don't get to see any of this stuff, and a lot of things get said. And I just looked at him. I said, listen, man, as long as we have an understanding and we know where we are in all of this, let's go have fun with it. But you know, it's just going to be complicated. Like, you know, I had a hard time cheering when his win light came on. So for people who don't know, man, that is a interesting dynamic. You know, it's tough, and it is not that serious until you get to the countdown. Before that, of course, you just want your teammate to win. But when you get to where every round counts, you're like, damn it, man, like I'm happy, but I'm also not, et cetera, et cetera. And I know he dealt with some of those things as well. So we'll see how 2026 goes, man. We're going to roll into Gainesville. And we're going to remember what we didn't finish. And it's not fair to say we'll race for it first round. I said that in my speech. We won't race for anything. I'm not giving up the trophy. I'll keep that. But you know, it'll be something that'll be fun that we will carry with us for the whole year next year. Definitely, I'm sure. And we'll see how it goes.
I love hearing you acknowledge, and that's why I think people really are excited for you to be a champion and out there talking. Like, you know, like before this year, it was like Richard Gadson, we're getting to know you, and now you're champion. Like, you will be forced to represent NHRA. They're going to send you out there, and you're going to have a great opportunity to tell truths like you just did. I don't think I've ever heard a driver admit that they weren't rooting for their teammate. Like, no, I'm rooting for my teammate. No, you're not. Just admit it.
Yeah.
No, you're rooting for my teammate. And you said you weren't. And if you were rooting for him, that would have been weird, right? Come on, man. You got a chance to win a championship. All right, couple more questions, and then we'll let you go back. We're stealing time from Vance Hines today.
No worries. I'm good to go.
Malcolm Phillips is out there saying congratulations to you and Destiny Spurlock.
Thanks,
and there's other grudge racers. Like, how many more are out there do you think that could race at this level if they got an opportunity?
More than you think. A lot of them. A lot of them. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so vocal. You know, that's something that you at one point, nobody would ever even talk about that. There's a stigma or a stereotype that comes with grudge racing. You wouldn't even talk about that on Fox Sports, right? You wouldn't even mention it, but there's a pool of, you know, we saw Travis Harvey come over in Pro Mod and get a one race fill-in job and wins the race. Right. We all know who Travis Harvey is. He's a seasoned driver, but it's the same thing over there. You have your Destinies, you have your Malcolm Phillipses, you have your Jeremy Teasleys, who's widely regarded as probably one of the greatest of all times in our sport. He's never raced NHRA. He would be. Oh, no, he did race. He raced twice, one for Junior Pippin and one time for for Greg Underdahl. Just 2 one-race stints. But no doubt, if he was put in a position to come over here and ride a competitive motorcycle, we'd have trouble. And same thing with Malcolm and Destiny. They both did really good with their opportunities. If you look at their lights and how they raced, again, it's just a pressure cooker that they're used to being able to come over here and do that. So there's a lot of them, man. There's so many of them, and good people, great stories, good teams, good supporting systems. They're out there. It's just I made a decision at one point, and when I say the decision, I got tongue tied on that, but it was a literal decision. I told Brad Mummert, which is somebody I rode for a long time. I says, man, it's not going to fall in my lap. Nobody's going to ring my phone and say, hey, you want to ride a pro stock bike? And I don't have the money to go race pro stock bike, to do a rental deal. I said, I'm going to make the decision to stop doing everything I'm doing right now and start trying to get in there. And I got in by way of Chris Bostic, and we just kept going from there. And here I am. But there's a whole pool of riders out there. What I'm happy to see happening in NHRA is everybody used to just swap around riders within NHRA. It was all just like they would just play musical chairs with riders, but it would be the same name, same faces, different bike, different paint job. Now everybody's starting to say, hey, who can we get from the outside? Who can we get new? And come in here and do damage. And I think that's the transition phase you see in our class right now. And I can't wait to see what the future holds.
No, I'm excited about it as well. And I think it's good for the sport. And there's a whole transitional period that I think is getting ready to happen. And we're seeing it. Like, once upon a time, if I work hard and I build the bike, I ride the bike because it's fun riding the bike. But you know what else is fun? Winning is fun. And if you buy the bike and you go out first round every week versus you buy the bike, you put some hotshot rider on there who's going to go out there and go rounds, maybe it's a different thing. And I'm not speaking about anybody in particular. That is kind of a general statement in all classes.
Absolutely.
Richard Childress, Rick Hendrick, the most wise thing that they ever did was step out of the seat and become an owner and focus on bringing in money. And they put a driver in there, and look, the rest is history. All right. 2 moments I want you to talk about, right? Well, one moment.
Yep.
You said the other day, I forget where we were. We were somewhere, and you said you were listening to me and Jordan Vandegrift talking about how if someone was going to win this thing, they're going to have to take it from Gage. And that shocked me that you were listening to us. What was that about?
So every night Gage's grandparents, I think his grandma tapes every run of his from the side of the track. So he gets like a video. Well, my video is NHRA TV. I don't have enough people on my side of the lane to tape my every run. And a lot of times I'm against him, right? So I'll go to NHRA TV and I will watch the passes, screen record them, and play them back and forth so I can dissect my riding. This particular one, it was Saturday night. You guys were talking about me and Chase Van Sant. We were at the start line. I was in the right lane. He was in the left lane. That's how well I remember it. That's how big this moment was for me. And you both gave us great kudos, and you were saying about who's the next breakthrough rider, who's the next person that can challenge Gage and Matt. And you both said these two guys are on the brink of it, but, Gage and Matt aren't going to give it up easy. Like, you're going to have to take it from them, and they're going to need to find something else. They're going to need to find a little bit more to be able to do that. They're good, but just not quite there. It was the general gist. I'm paraphrasing. And I was laying in bed and I was watching, and I was like, he's right. Like, this is where good can't be good enough. I got to find a way to be perfect. And, what you guys might look at a run and see a flawless run. I might look at it and see something that may not matter. It may be worth 1,000th of a second, but I will obsess myself with trying to fix that. And Eddie, the same thing. We had some talks all the way through to Gainesville. Last year it was kind of put on me, like, it's a riding difference. You're not riding as good. And, I believed that for the first half of the season, and I believe that was the case. But the second half of the season, I'm like, listen, there's something going on. I don't know. I'd have to drag the front brakes to be 2 or 3 mile an hour slower on the back half. And I think after Gainesville, they started thinking about it, like, you know what, man, we got to find something. And everybody dug deep. Everybody. Andrew, even though he's still our team leader. Andrew, Eddie, me, and we all, it became something where we all put our heads together and said, why is this motorcycle not performing? And once we found it, we've been on the roll ever since, man. So that moment was Bristol, and the moment of the team meeting, kind of figuring out what was wrong with my motorcycle, was just before Bristol, maybe a race before Bristol. And we've turned a corner ever since, man. Gage is still Gage. He's still really, really, really hard to be better than for 4 passes on Sunday. You got to just hope you, in the one round where he leaves the door open, or be perfect. You know that he's going to be perfect. You got to be perfect too. And that's pretty much what I modeled my season after, was be perfect every single run.
Amazing. No, that's an amazing story. Thank you for saying that. And wow, that's just, you won Bristol and then you win the championship. And here you are. All right, Eddie Krawick. This guy, I love Eddie Krawick. He's a Jersey guy. He's no nonsense. He's got a great dad. He's like, to me, for many years, when people said, like, pick a competitor to put in a top fuel dragster, I would say Eddie Krawick, because he is just that intense. And I had an experience with Eddie at the U.S. Nationals once where he was mean Eddie. He was angry Eddie. And he came in, he's like, I'm pissed off and I'm going to win this thing. And he did. It was like really amazing. So now you get to experience that, right? But coaching, mentoring, maybe getting after you sometimes. Talk just a little bit. Give us some insight to that Eddie Krawiec. And I know you said that this is his 50th win and his 5th championship and all of those things. Just give us a little on Eddie.
Eddie is, you said you started by saying, I love Eddie. You either love him or you can't stand him. And he doesn't care either way. He's going to be who he is. He's a Jersey guy. That's a very good way to explain it. But what I will say is that he's very misunderstood. I think his delivery and how he says things sometimes precedes him, but his intentions and how he will literally help anybody in the pits. In Dallas, he came over to my trailer when I rode for a different team and wanted me to make the show, wanted me to get down the racetrack. And he gave me some sort of, Andrew's laughing at me because I don't think that went over well. He just walked in and peeked in. But Eddie helped me out to help me get down the racetrack, and he was still riding on Vance Hines' team. But Eddie is a person that you got to wear your thick skin for, especially if you're going to be underneath him or his rider. Like I said in my speech, I just wanted him to say good job. And those are hard to get out of him, because if there was anything, I'm talking about if I had to lean the motorcycle a hair, he's just letting me know, hey, you should have did this or that, or, or what are you thinking? And he relies heavily on my feedback. And once we started gelling and clicking, I saw a different side of him. I started seeing, okay, look, dude, like if you can give me this every run, if you can ride like that, I'm going to win you a championship. He told me that. I don't ever remember what race, but it was early in the year. Not early, but maybe mid-season before the countdown. He said, if you can keep riding like you're riding right now, you're going to win this championship. And I'm going to give you the best motorcycle I know how to give you. We're still learning, but I'm starting to make sense of some of these things. I'm starting to connect the dots. And I think that's something that's really important to know. These guys Eddie and Andrew have combined 10 championships. You would think that they've learned everything there is to learn. They know it all. Like anything that they do has to be on purpose. They know everything, and they do not. These guys are still digging every single race, every single run, and that's been one of the biggest things that I've learned since being on this team. I would look at Eddie and I'm like, you don't know these things? And he's like, no, we're figuring it out right now. But they're transparent. They're honest. Eddie's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. You don't have to worry about which way he's coming from. He comes straight at you head on, and I can appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. I've been mad at Eddie quite a few times, and probably vice versa. But he's a good dude, man, and he fights hard. That's my Eddie Krawiec.
I appreciate it. It's drag racing. When you figure out the answers, they change the questions. It's just that simple.
That's right.
Richard, I appreciate you coming on the show. Is there anything we didn't talk about? Anything we didn't say? Is there anything you want to say to the WFO universe and everybody who watches this in the future about the season or what lies ahead? Obviously we got PRI. We got all good times coming up, 75th season of NHRA. But if there's anything that I didn't get to that you wanted to put out there, do it now.
I just want to say to anybody who's watching or listening who may be disappointed in the result. I know I circled back to that. I just want you guys to know that this was not your typical average. We've all been to a racetrack and it rained. This was once for the ages situation. You guys be gracious to the NHRA staff, crew, the people who bust their asses to give you guys a show to watch and us a racetrack to race. I would ask that you give them a little trust. If this was the call, this was the right call. To whoever's listening, who may have needed to hear that, or even if you're not on here, share it. But I just wanted to say that one piece. And Pro Stock Motorcycle in 2026 is going to be really cool. There's some. I'm sure we'll have some of our silly season coming up. We didn't beat the fuel guys to it, but there'll be some riders coming out, some bikes coming out. You guys stay tuned and. We'll see you guys at the racetrack in Gainesville.
There you go. I'm excited about it. I'm excited for PRI. Yeah. On that note, there's been some silly season stuff this year, huh?
Quite the silly season. I think this is a thing that's going on in sports in general, not just drag racing. You see it in the NFL. You see it in the NBA, where in MLB, where players are jockeying for position, are positioning themselves in different spots. I don't know exactly the root of it on their side, but on our side, our sport is changing. Our sport is changing. And I read a lot of comments where people say drag racing is dead and NHRA is this and that and da-da-da-da. I beg to differ. I think what you guys are seeing right now is the start to really, really, really cool transition. But man, Austin and the Proc family is almost synonymous with JFR. So this is, I think, as much of a shocker as it is, and for some people, and in some fashions, maybe even a heartbreak that we'll have to get over for the next couple months. But I wish those guys the best. I think they're going to kick ass wherever they go, and I'm sure JFR is going to fill that seat with somebody badass as well.
There it is. Yeah, I'm a story guy. You got to have stories. And boy, do we have stories. Richard, congratulations on your championship. Please say hi to Eddie and Andrew and everybody over there. We'll see you at PRI. Congratulations. 2025 Pro Stock Motorcycle Champ.
Yep. Thank you, man. Have a good one, guys.
Later, Richard. Richard Gadson. And what is not to like about your 2025 Mission Food Series champion, Richard Gadson? Such a great story. I had heard about his grandfather, the Competition Plus story, like a deep dive bio piece by Bobby Bennett. I recommend you go check it out. You can see some great photographs of Richard and his early life. And I remember Richard coming out. People were like, that's Ricky Gadson. It's no, because it was R. Gadson on the papers. Like, Ricky, no, this is Richard. This is his nephew. And here we are a couple of years later, and he is a world champion. Amazing, amazing stuff. And I really appreciate it. If you're just watching WFO Radio for the very first time, please subscribe. Subscribe to the show. I'm asking you, subscribe to the show, and you're going to get more of that. We are going to connect with Austin Proc at some point. I have a feeling it's going to be after the turn of the year, is just my take on that. Doug Coletta, I would love to catch up with Doug Coletta. I'm actually going to be interviewing Doug Coletta and Alan Johnson together next week as part of the E-Part Trade Industry Week. It's an online seminar. I'll drop the link next week. It'll be right after this show next week. And maybe it's on Monday. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But Tony Stewart, Leah, Richard Freeman, like they got me interviewing all these great drag racing personalities. I'm pretty good at that. And so E-Part Trade hires me to be a part of their industry week, and they book all the great guests and they take them from me. That's fine. That's fine. But we're going to try to connect with all of our champions. Dallas Glenn. I got a nice interview with G-Spot Dallas Glenn that at the track, he and Sadie, which I should have played this week, but didn't do it. So we'll do that in the future. Next week, it'll be pretty great. But I want to talk about the Austin Proc situation. I want to devote the next few minutes to the Austin Proc situation and just frame the story as best as I can. Look, Malcolm Phillips out there. I know the pain of that. I get called Michael Phillips all the time at the NHRA. Right. M. Phillips, R. Gadson. Malcolm Phillips, he's a next young man that I like him. I know you're out there, Malcolm, so I'm not going to say that I don't like you because you're out there, but I do like you because I appreciate the drive. These guys want to get in here, man. There's a drive. They're fighting it out. They're trying to get there. They need to find money. And that's why I really do believe that, and I don't mean anyone specifically, but the thing about, like, I paid for it, I drive. I pay, I drive. We got to get by that in NHRA. And, I just paid for a race car and I'm driving it, right? But then again, I'm 50 and I still got some years. But when I'm 75 or 80, like, man, put a kid in the car. And there's a time, like there's a video going around on social media of a driver struggling to get into the water box, et cetera, and so on. Like that guy, like, I don't know any of the details, right? But it's okay to be a team owner, I think is what I'm saying. Like the sport needs team owners that provide opportunity to young, talented racers. This is not an easy sport. And someone who is 22 years old or 28 years old probably doesn't have the disposable funds to have a race car and a trailer and a top kick or a stacker and go pay an entry fee and drop $1,000 on fuel. Like, it's just not likely. So, it takes a village, and I'd like to see more of that in the future. I'd like to see more of that. All right. What we're going to do is take a quick break, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk John Force Racing. We're going to talk about Cornwell Tools. We're going to talk about the Proc family and the decision that they have made to move on from John Force Racing. It is a wild story. It is wild. But first, I want to tell you about HusseyPerformance.net. Not just quality copper gaskets anymore. Hussey Performance, David Allen and the team, they do composite gaskets of alcohol dragster, alcohol funny car. They got contingency programs in the NHRA and PDRA. 412-716 4872. Now is the time. If you're not using HusseyPerformance.net gaskets, they can get them out to you very, very rapidly. They certainly did with me for Project Pontiac. I used copper gaskets on the exhaust side. Boom, slid them in there. And now I won't have to, spend years scraping off those OE gaskets over and over again. But reach out to Dave and Allen. I'm sure they'll be at PRI or around. Have had a booth in the past. HusseyPerformance.net. Check those guys out. We really appreciate them being supporters of WFO Radio. All right, we will be back talking the proc thing after this.
Redline Oil, formulated to win, proven by me.
Redline Oil, formulated to win.
Formulated to win.
Formulated to win, proven by me.
Formulated to win, proven by me.
Proven by me.
Proven by me.
Redline Oil, formulated to win, proven by me.
The number one source of friction in your engine is not what you think. Piston rings rubbing against the cylinder walls generate more friction than any other part of the engine. More friction and temperature means more wear and less horsepower. Fortunately, the team at Total Seal knows how to reduce friction and wear through innovative piston ring design. If it takes a piston, Total Seal can build a better ring.
Drag racing fans, check out Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. It's the free, family-friendly fantasy bracket game. Now, after final qualifying at every national event, you can fill out your bracket for all the pro classes.
It's free, easy to click on your picks. If you need some help, just hit the randomizer button to fill in the blanks. It's for fun, stay engaged, and pick your winners today.
Next week on WFO Radio, we will celebrate our Drag Race Bracket Bonanza WFO League champion. It will be a big moment. Be sure to subscribe. Don't miss a show. Follow us on X, wherever you watch WFO Radio. I think YouTube is the best place, frankly. I think YouTube is the best place because we put out all those clips and then, we monetize those clips and we make like $50. It's great. It's great stuff. Be sure to subscribe. Tomorrow on Life's a Drag, the Life's a Drag guys are going to be doing Thanksgiving celebration, and they are going to invite a ton of personalities on there to just talk for a few moments and summarize the season. I will pop on there at the very beginning. Life's a Drag now on the WFO network. Very excited about what's going on. And if you did not watch last week's show, we talked about the awards banquet. It was pretty much an awards banquet recap, all the food we ate, all the great stuff that happened around the finals. And I do want to support what Richard Gadson said. At the beginning of our interview, I did scoff a little bit, a slight scoff at his willingness to combat the people on social media. I do have a conflicting opinion in that, silence is complicity. If you don't say anything, you're kind of agreeing with it. But at the same time, that person out there on social media with the crazy unpopular opinion, I really think that in many cases, they don't even believe what they're saying. They're just looking for a reaction, desperation for a reaction. And they will say just really extreme stuff just to get a reaction. And like Erica will go on there and fight it out with some guy. And it's the biggest moment of that person's life. They're leaving their computer. They're going to their friends. Yeah, man, I just had a Facebook fight with a world champion. And I don't know, should you give them that, right? Well, we're seeing a lot of that about the NHRA decision. I can tell you that from the people that I know in Southern California, it rained for days and days and days. So if all the people who said that NHRA made the wrong call had gotten it their way, what would have happened? What would have happened? We wouldn't have declared champions to this moment right now. We would be struggling and scrambling to go race in different locations. Maybe we wouldn't have champions. Like, who knows what would have happened? But my understanding is that there were no other options. The Kobayashi Maru of drag racing decisions. There was no solution. And this was the best of all bad choices. Someone on X talking about the NHRA, not an NHRA media source, talking about how does your championship race get rained out? Yeah, this is not a championship race. It's a 6-race championship. And any one of the races could be rained out, and the championship still, 3 of the races could have gotten rained out. and there still would have been a champion. Misidentifying the facts to your viewers out there on X, not a good thing. The final race of 6 got eliminated due to Mother Nature, and a real tragedy for the Southern California community, by the way. Southern California community, they were doing sandbags. They have all these fire scars. There were landslides. It was a very difficult situation to even be putting on an event in the middle. So anyone that is thinking that NHRA did anything but make the right decision with their racers, the pro organization and NHRA worked in tandem to make that call. If you don't believe that, you're missing the point. And I know there are a lot of people, like, their opinion is their religion. They will not modify their opinion, regardless of what facts are presented. And you're never going to change their mind. You're never going to change their mind. It's not possible to be complicit in that, because they will not accept the reality that there was no other solution. And there really wasn't. We could have stayed. People are talking about the awards. They just wanted to go to the awards. We were going anyway. Monday after it was over, we were going to go and we were going to come back. That was not a factor. We were going to go enjoy our prime rib and chicken. And we were going to go enjoy a couple of beverages and some music by Jason Logan. We're going to enjoy it. And we were going to go back on Tuesday morning if that was the deal. Guess what? It rained on Tuesday and it rained on Monday. And as I understand it, it rained on Wednesday when the TV trucks left. So let's put it to bed. Everybody come up with a little peace and a little grace for everybody who made those very difficult decisions, especially the drivers. Would have costed them thousands and thousands of dollars to sit around and do what? You would have cost them money. Every champion is totally deserving. Everyone, especially Richard Gadson. All right. What do you think about the Proc situation? This has been percolating a little bit under the surface. I believe it came out a little prematurely. The news that I heard through the grapevine is that they started to remove some of their stuff from John Force Racing, and then people are like, alert the media. I don't know if that was a good idea, because I think it put John Force Racing in a bad situation to have to react to a story, but it's out now. And the Proc family, back-to-back funny car champions, are leaving their team and going somewhere. Now, there's a lot of rumors about where somewhere is, and I'm not going to entertain those, because I believe in allowing the people who own the story to tell the story. I do kind of wish that the people who own the story would get ahead of the story, because everybody is speculating like wildfire. Are they going to Tony Stewart? Are they going to be a teammate with Matt Hagan for Dodge? Are they going to partner with Daniel Wilkerson at Skag? Did Randy Glady pull off an amazing thing? Is it going to be Ford Funny Car Skag, Daniel Wilkerson as teammate? Like, I'm just making up stuff here in case you haven't figured that out, based on the comments that I've seen. Cruz Pedregon has hired them to be like, this is fun, but it is also a little sad. The Proc family, this family organization, made a decision that it is better for them to be elsewhere than John Force Racing. I really think as we start our 75th anniversary season, John announces his retirement, wins a championship. Brittany is stepping away from the sport, and their flagship race car, world champion, the team is going elsewhere. The car remains. There's been a statement by John Force Racing, 4 cars. They committed in the statement to run 4 cars. So we got Josh Hart and we got Jack Beckman. That's 2 of the 4. 2 to be determined. Again, there's a lot of rumor mill circulating. I choose to allow them to tell their story. I feel like when I need something, they'll give it to me because of moments like this. But you don't have to dig that deeply. You don't have to be a detective to figure out what some of the storylines are. But there are some questions. Who's going to drive the Cornwell Tools car? That was a big debatable point. Like, is Cornwell going with the Proc family? And the folks at Cornwell have announced that. No, they're staying with John Force Racing. So John Force Racing, it's not as big a disaster as it could have been if somehow Cornwell said, yeah, we're going to, because that's financial. I don't think it's possible to replace Austin Thomas and Jimmy Prock. I don't think it's possible to replace them and not feel it. But if you've got Cornwell and you got Peak and you got your sponsors and they're committed, and you know what else you got? You got the car. Who's going to drive that car? That's an interesting storyline. Like, who gets the opportunity to drive that car? So the fans are out there saying that Courtney and Ashley, they're coming back. Like, guys, that would, I don't believe it's possible. Like, if you want to write a story that I just don't believe will happen, that's it. So, you know, to the John Force fan loyalists, I wouldn't waste your time with that. And I am willing to be wrong on this. Feel free to play the clips when Courtney Force comes back and drives the Cornwell Tools car and gets back in it to save the family business and jump in there. Like, I'll believe that when I see it. And I will cheer if it happens. I don't think that's happened. I don't see that as possible. And I don't see Ashley coming back as a possible thing. I don't see it. So, hey, sorry. What is possible, though? There are some talented young drivers out there, drivers that could potentially do well in that situation. As far as tuning and who's going to run it, I know that Tim Fabrizi, Chris Cunningham, and Danny Hood have told me they run their car very differently than Jimmy runs his car. Very differently. So that's a complication. But this is where John Force Racing, definitely weakened, has a chance to make a big move. Think about the Godfather movie. I think about Don Corleone, right? When, 5 shots and he's still alive. And Michael came in and saved the day and won it for the family. What's going to happen at John Force Racing? That's an interesting story. Josh Hart now elevated all of a sudden, the second tenured driver over there. You've got Jack Beckman, who's been with the company for 2 years, year and a half. And you've got Josh Hart, the rumor mill story. And then we just don't know. To me, as someone who makes a living talking about drag racing and drag racing stories, and like, this is huge. This is the biggest story that has happened in drag racing in multiple decades. If you're the Procs, the where you're going is really the interesting stuff. The where you're going. I have no doubt they're going to be successful. The where you're going is interesting. And again, you don't have to dig very deeply, guys. There are people putting out notices about big announcements, when they're going to happen, January 15th. Go listen to the Ignition show as people speculate. Tasca is going to be a part of the big Ford announcements happening on January 15th. Like, that's, what could happen there? We could speculate about that. Can you imagine? What if that's like going from a Chevy to a Ford, or a Chevy to a Dodge, or a Chevy to a Toyota? It's like, manufacturers are involved. The teams are involved. It's a major story. So it got me thinking, what other world champions have left the team that they're with to go do something different? I thought that thought, and I said, I'm not going to look that up. I'm going to ask the listeners on X, and we'll crowdsource it. We'll let them do it. So the one that I started off with was Michael Schumacher at Benetton. Formula One, that's also a sport, guys. Formula One wins the 94-95 championship in Formula One, and then Michael Schumacher goes to Ferrari. There's one. And then Paul Tsongas, who is announced with us, Paul's from Minnesota, mentions Tony Pedregon, 2004, leaves John Force Racing to go join Cruise. There. I want to hear Tony talk about that with Brian Loans. Like, he's been through this experience. You never have greater capital than when you're the champion, right? Whoever it is, like, a lot of people think that they are out there as a free agent, just like waiting for someone to make them an offer. I don't know if that's true, guys. I don't, like, hey, John, we're just going to leave and see if someone makes us an offer. That doesn't sound very smart. I know a lot of the fans are posting about that. They're great free agents. Yeah, I don't think so. Dan Weldon left Andretti to go to Ganassi, 2005. I was at XM at the time. That was a big deal. Fernando Alonso leaves Renault to go to McLaren in 2007 after winning championships. What are you noticing about this? What are you noticing, right? One of our listeners, Valentino Rossi, left Honda to go to Yamaha. That's a big one as champion. Alain Prost in 89 from McLaren to Ferrari. I did not double check that one though. Nigel Mansell in 92 leaves Williams Renault to go to Newman Haas in kart. What are you noticing? What are you noticing? Nico Rosberg retired after a championship. Jackie Stewart retired after a championship. Maybe you've got others. Every one of those examples, the sport that they were in was a big money sport, a big money sport, a sport that when these things happened were considerably smaller than they are now, that the sports have blown up huge, just like the NFL, just like the NBA, where hundreds of thousands of dollars are now tens of millions of dollars. This is a massive, massive moment. And if the Proc family is doing it for money, I am totally okay with that. That's how the sport grows. The sport has to grow. So if someone backed up a Brinks truck to the Proc family and said, come on, baby, come play with these, that's what makes a sport grow. What an interesting story. What an interesting story. And we will follow it. Let's see what you guys have to say, though. Forget about my opinion. Let's see what you've got to say. Stock up on those parts and pieces for the Pontiac, Joe. What's that coming from? What do you know that I don't know? Let's see. Dragster Jeff, JFR 26, Beckman DeJoria. Dragster Jeff, oh my gosh. If that was true and you knew it and you're like sharing it, you're like leaking stuff, get out of here. Come on, there's no way that is. All right, let's see. Hart and Zetterstrom. I support Ida. Like, I want to see Ida get a ride. I want to see John Force Racing rally back. Like, let's take a second to acknowledge the possibility of the heel turn. If you're a wrestling fan, you know that like when a good wrestler goes bad, it's, you know, becoming a heel, that whole thing, right? If you're a John Force Racing loyalist, devoted fan, love John, what do you think about this? Are you going to root for Austin? Or are you going to root against Austin? Is Austin now the guy wearing the black hat to all the John Force Racing fans? Or will they still admire him because he did win 2 championships for John Force Racing? I think that's an interesting, I think it's interesting. It's crazy. Safe decision to cancel the race. Totally agree. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. My guess is that Bob Tasca is going to give the old man the keys, and Bob has old money, says Captain Lucky. Let's explore. Bob Tasca is a legacy name in the NHRA. Bob Tasca is a go-getter kind of personality. Tasca Ford, they sell a lot of Fords, and he, I believe, is on the board at Ford. He did go to Ford and tell them to support NHRA drag racing, and they did. They did. The only downside to the whole thing is that Bob really hasn't won enough for Ford to really like toot the horn on NHRA. It's like, we got a car in the NHRA and they're doing all kinds of great stuff in the NHRA, the YES program, etc. But man, Ford really wanted to fly the flag for NHRA. They need to win a little more. So it does make sense that you would go and make a huge free agent acquisition and try to shore up your team. That it does kind of make sense, Captain Lucky. We'll have to just wait and see. It's a sad deal for JFR, but it's about money, I would guess. Well, money, there's a bunch of reasons. And I don't want to go there. The reasons that you would decide to leave someplace. The Procs have, Jimmy Proc has left before. You may recall. I have heard rumors, but I'm not going to comment on them until the team themselves post about it. It's not my circus, not my monkey. Thank you, Mac. That's true. That's really what we should all be doing. But at the same time, when I'm doing live comments on people, I'm not going to like not display a comment that someone is commenting because it's in the rumor mill anyway. Just act like I don't know if it's true or not. What's crazier about the announcement is that JFR still plans on running 4-car program next year. Is that crazier, or does that show that there's some strength on the team? I can tell you that folks at Peak love John Force Racing, and the folks at Cornwell have made it very clear that they love John Force Racing. And Josh Hart is coming in with some of his own budget, and I believe going to be able to do some big things. Anything's possible. Who knows? Maybe this makes the whole sport stronger. Honestly, if you're working at John Force Racing, I don't know, this might make you work a little harder. Is Courtney still a monster athlete? I have no idea about that. Chicagoland is coming back. They need someone who can be a good marketing partner for Cornwell Tools. Beckman was a great ad for Force, but have to find that personality, says Darren Moran. Right. That's a big fun decision. Like, these are fun stories. Like, who is the right fit for the Cornwell sponsorship and car? That's a whole nother story. If you're a fan of John Force Racing, that's exciting. Who is it? And we could look at the funny car points list and just go down, and maybe they make a free agent acquisition. Maybe they go out and get somebody. We just don't know. The rumors for a long time have been that JFR is downsizing to a 2-car team, says Mark. Mark, we just read a statement by John Force that says they're going to have a 4-car team. So the rumors, I fly in the face of what they just put out. Maybe the rumors will be right. This is why rumors, just like Tony jumping ship with a new oil deal. Would you count Alan Johnson in this case? What, as a leaving as a champion? Del Worsham leaving, I don't know what you mean specifically. From Schumacher? Yeah. Any one of those. Any one of those, like, high profile, successful person parts ways with the team and goes in a different direction. Thanks, Joe. Silly season was fun. I heard Joe was driving for JFR. No. Let's get TJ back in the seat. Tommy Johnson. Tommy Johnson is like color commentary over there at the NHRA. I don't know, man. Really? I don't know. What about this one? Spencer Hyde to Force. This is one that I thought about. It popped in my head. There's a lot of people are putting ideas in my head. Like, some people are like said, how about Chris King? He's a firefighter and he's a blue collar guy and he's really good. And wouldn't that be great? And I'm thinking, like, man, it would be cool for him to get an opportunity. Very like John, hard worker, right? I bet you they're simpatico on a lot of things. I think Bobby Bodie, young man, good looking, marketable, no bad habits, can be raised in the John Force vein and trained. Like, there's a bunch of them. We could think about it, right? You could think of Julie Natus. What about Julie? Julie, go in that direction. That could be interesting. It's a fun game to play. But Spencer Hyde is the rookie of the year. He's proven he can drive. And we have heard that if he doesn't find sponsor money, that ride might not be available to him next year. That's been bantered about. So, man, I don't know. Happy Thanksgiving from King, North Carolina, home of Ricky Smith. Look at that. Chris King is out there. I didn't even know. I swear I didn't say your name because you said hi, Chris. Next year will be different, but John knows what he's doing. I have no doubt. Oh, look, I got to get this in. My vote is Vandegrift. I'd love to see Jordan get an opportunity. I would love to see, like, you can bring up the points list in Funny Car. Let's do it. What are we going to do? Let's do it. Standings, and just read some names. Hopefully you guys don't have anything to do today. I guess I'll start at the bottom, right? Chris Morrell, Tim Gibbons, Mike McIntyre, Joe Morrison. I like Joe, but I don't think that, sorry, Joe. John Capps, Del Worsham, Stephen Densham, Dylan Winefsky. There's a name, Dylan Winefsky. Kid's a young driver. I think a little too green for this opportunity. Jim Campbell, Chris King, Dale Creasy, Justin Schriefer, John Smith, Terry Haddock. Is it Terry Haddock? I don't think it's Terry Haddock. Sorry, Terry. Phil Burkhart, Jason Rupert, Jeff Deal. Any of those names make your toes tingle? Maybe they do. Let's keep going. Julie Natus, alcohol dragster champion, licensed funny car racer, some media savvy. If I'm Julie, I know what I'm doing. I'm setting up a tent on the parking lot of John Force Racing. That's what I'm doing. Bobby Bodie, same deal. They got tents. It's a tent city in the parking lot of John Force Racing. But those aren't homeless people. Those are drag racers looking for jobs. Hunter Green. Hunter's got a plan already. Blake Alexander. You know, you're Blake. You've already got a plan. But John Force, the championship car is available. What kind of person gets to drive that car? Like, I think this is titillating to everyone. Buddy Hall. Word on the street is that Buddy's got, some things he's going to be announcing. Dave Richards is already going with Skag, Alexis DeJoria, part of the rumor mill stories. It's kind of already there. J.R. Todd, obviously, I think J.R. Todd is locked down at Coletta. Like, that's it. Now, if I'm John Force, you can't get in a bidding war against Connie Coletta. If I'm J.R. Todd, though, I want people to think it. If I'm J.R. Todd, like, oh, yeah, John, I got to go. I want people to think it. Certainly. Bob Tasca. It's not Tasca. Spencer Hyde, Cruz Pedregon, Chad Green, Paul Lee, Daniel Wilkerson. Like, everybody else is spoken for. So is it someone who is not currently in the big show? What about some of these nostalgia, these Legends Nitro guys? What about some alcohol funny car racers? What about? This is a fun exercise. We'll have to ride it out. We'll see what happens. And when announcements get made and all of that, it'll be very fun. Final comments in the comment section, guys. Final comments in the comment section. But I wanted to read you something that I was sent privately. And I think it demonstrates how people feel about John Force. And I was moved by it. It was sent to me in back channel. And how people think about this. Sorry, Derek. I'm reading your private text to me on the air. This whole proc deal had me devastated. I have several takes on it. There's one team I did not want to see them go to. But in the end, if this is something that they are trying to build for themselves, then I completely understand. I just felt like they were Force forever. I was a Force fan before I even knew who he was. When I was 9 or 10 years old, I was a kid sitting on the general admission side of the Texas Motorplex. I just liked his car. I had no idea who he was. It was years later when I found NHRA Today on TNN at my grandmother's on cable. I was able to then convince my dad to buy tickets to go into the pits. I have so many memories of situations that happened that allowed me to get John's autograph in a picture. He made me feel so special, like I was the only one there. In 2019, I was less than 10 feet away from him, just standing in Ennis, waiting for an autograph session. I so badly wanted to go up to him and tell him what he means to me. I fought with myself, saying that if I did not do it now, I would never get the chance. And I still did not do it. We all know what happened in 2020. Since then, I have not been able to tell John what he means to me. John Force and the whole team really means so much to me, says Derek, who helps out from time to time on WFO. And that's what we're dealing with, guys, with this whole John Force Racing situation and tugging on the heartstrings and the emotions. Derek, I think it was the right thing to not tell him, just so you know. Everybody's telling this guy a million things. Just know it in your heart. I acknowledge. You don't have to tell John. He knows. He knows. Final thoughts as we get ready to get on out of here. Life's a Drag tomorrow. Appreciate it. If you guys check him out, I will be on there at the very beginning. Hear from Michael Heiner for Patreons. The Pro Stock Show season wrap-up. Michael Heiner says we're going to do a show. We're going to do a show. I appreciate Michael Heiner being so willing to come on and talk about their season. They missed out on a top 10 because of the rain out. A lot of spots got just locked in. RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. Guys, holidays, coffee, hot sauce. It's great. 817-924-6821. Call Marvin. And if you want to support WFO, get yourself a can of Foggett, available at summitracingequipment.com. Go to the Summit catalog and order some Foggett for the holidays and give it out to your best employees. Same is true for Frank Hawley's drag racing school. Frank does the Dragster Adventure, and it's something that I think you should all consider as a gift. FrankHawley.com. They travel around the country. You could give it to your best client, your best customer, or your best sales guy. Send them on an experience. They will love it. And I say this every year, and I wonder, do the employers out there think so little of their employees that they wouldn't do something fun and they just give them the, gift basket? Here's the gift basket again, or an extra 50 in the envelope. Send them on something cool, man. Frank Hawley's, especially all you people in the racing industry. Call Frank. Simple as that. Bernie's Speed Shop, guys. Bernie's going to be talking with Josh on the E-Part Trade Industry Week. Think about Josh Hart all of a sudden. Like he's driving Brittany's dragster. What if they can deliver some wins for John Force Racing? He will immediately become like a favorite because this team, people love John Force Racing. They want to see John Force Racing win races. And Josh Hart is going to be in a car capable of it. So it'll be interesting. The only reason he can do it, though, is because he's got Bernie's Speed Shop. And when you are interested in classic cars, muscle cars, even some exotic cars, what I will call cars of consequence, go to Bernie's.com. Check out their inventory. Maybe you want to buy one, or maybe you want to sell one. Constant transactions going on, international audience. They are shipping cars overseas. So if you've got a car that your grandkids are going to find in the barn long after you've passed and put it on Auto Trader and sell it for way less than it's worth, you might as well sell it with the folks at Bernie's. BURNYZZ.com. Shout out to Redline Oil and everybody who supports WFO Radio. FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. These guys did the Power Glide and the Torque Converter in Project Pontiac. Super excited about getting back on the track myself. Total Seal Piston Rings will be in the Total Seal booth. And Jesse Converters. Matt Latino and Eric Latino are actually helping me out. We're going to do a video, the catalytic converters on my street car, Cadillac CTS-V LS2, the first generation, naturally aspirated. The cats are going bad, and they don't make them anymore. And what do? Sport. They've got them. I'm sorry, Matt and Eric. I think that's it. Dallas Glenn has changed the name. You might as well just change it. Sport. And that's the whole thing, too. Sport. Dallas Glenn. Can't wait to talk to Dallas about that. It's going to be fun. OE replacements. They've got the DPF X-Fit for over-the-road trucks, just particulate filter replacement. All the clips and clamps are all in exactly the factory location. Just that simple. And finally, great time to join Patreon. Patreon.com/WFO Radio. My Monday motivation was my first commentary on the whole proc thing. John Force Racing, another inflection point. What will happen? John has retired from driving, but now he's going to be able to be focused on making big decisions over there. Oh, and also you can get WFO swag and gear. Get your Project Pontiac stuff. It's all on sale. All right, let's get the final comments in this comment section and then get on out of here, right? Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. People are like, happy Thanksgiving in there. And I, each year, give thanks for this audience, for these people that trust what I have to say on this show and take it at least under consideration as they formulate their opinion. What about the women that went monster truck racing? The woman, Ashley Sanford? Yeah, she should have a 10 out in front of John Force Racing too. They should all be living in their cars out in front of John Force Racing. Why not Ashley Sanford? We loved Ashley. She was great. I saw her pretty recently. I think at the Winter Nationals. Maybe that was last year. Chris King says, I trust you. John's always had 3 or 4 cars. We'd love to see Spencer Hyde, says NHRA gal. Happy Thanksgiving, Joe. Are you racing a Immokalee this year? I don't know. I don't know if I want to bring the car out and bracket race it. It'll depend on my availability. I gotta get the car right. I got work to do to get ready for Orlando, the divisional, the 75th season of the NHRA. So the answer is maybe, Ron Merkel. I heard he hung out with Charlie K a little bit earlier. since he's going to a 4-car team, what does that say? Hyde, Beckman, Hart, Hire is what he meant to write. Hire Beckman, Hart, and Vandergriff would be an awesome crew team for drivers at JFR. I'm sorry, Mark, I can't understand. It's going to be a nail-biting off season, waiting to see what happens with everyone. Yeah. So this Vice TV show, the Vice TV show, typical NHRA fandom, the initial take was negative. I saw a lot of people talking about, I'd never even heard of Vice. Guys, if you never heard of Vice, that's because that's your problem, not their problem. Vice is the perfect place for this NHRA reality show. I think it's 6 episodes long. It's going to back up to the start of the Amalie Motor Oil NHRA Gator Nationals. Vice, like I was flipping through the channels the other night, it's available on DirecTV. They've got millions and millions of households. They're known for their like true grit commentary, and I was watching bare knuckle boxing on there. I'm like, oh man, bare knuckle boxing. But you know what? It was really good. They do a lot of documentary work, drug dealers, all kinds of stuff, like uncensored grit. Perfect for NHRA. And most importantly, somebody bought the documentary. Any person that is going to try so hard to find a negative, too many of our people they work hard trying to find the negative. The reason that the race was canceled, the reason it was illegitimate, the reason that Vice is not a good network, the reason. If they only put half the labor into positive, they would be a lot better off. I think we all would be a lot better off. Love you, brother. Love you too, Ralphie. Love you too. Love all you guys. I'm living the dream. Super excited about what we got going on. PRI, couple weeks. E-Part Trade Industry Week next week. We will do a WFO Radio. We're going to try to connect with another champion. Maybe Dallas Glenn is available. We'll have to see. But if you're disappointed about Austin leaving John Force Racing, I would say view it like this. It's a big story for drag racing, to track, to follow, to wonder. And maybe it's got crossover appeal. Maybe people, fans of F1, of NASCAR, with NASCAR, all the craziness they've got going on. Oh my gosh, DARFs. You can listen to Ignition for that. But this is going to be fun to track. Lots to talk about. Click subscribe. WFO, guys.